Hi lovelies, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Auntie Lara, and in today's lesson we are going to be considering Bunsey Poplars by Gerard Manley Hopkins. So let's quickly dive into it. So Gerard Manley Hopkins once studied in Oxford, and there's this particular rural area where he loves to stay because of the trees called aspens. The trees stand together and formed a kind of like a shade. So he calls my aspens there, whose airy cages. Okay, imagine you under a tree and the breeze is blowing. Coiled or quenched in leaves the leaping sun, meaning that the leaves shields from the sun, like it protects from the sun so that you can just stay under it and be okay. All felled are all felled of a fresh and following folded rank. To some romantic poets like Manley Hopkins, it matters a great deal because they place value on anything called nature. And here, Manley had placed value on the aspens, so much that he is calling the aspens my dear. Not spared, not one, that dandled a sandal, shadow that swam or sank on meadow and river and wind wandering, wind winding bank. All of the things that you get to enjoy when it comes to that particular area, like the trees casting shadows on the river, the trees standing as though they are armies on guard, the trees or quenching the sun, the trees giving airy cages. All of these are no more because the trees have all been cut down. Oh, if we but knew what we do when we delve or heal. Now, he's talking to we humans. That if only we know the havoc that we are wrecking when we cut down these trees. Hack and rack the growing grain. The growing grain means trees. When you hack and rack, with hoes and other instruments, since country is so tender, to touch her being so slender, that like this sleek and seen ball, but a prick will make no eye at all. Where we, even where we mean to mend her, we end her when we heal or delve. So now he's saying here that we don't know what we are doing. We don't know the havoc that we are creating when we cut down these trees. That the country is very, very tender. He's now likening the earth to an eyeball, like that, like this slick and same ball, but a prick will make no eye at all. When we want to, in a station where we feel that, oh, okay, we want to remove something from the eye, one little prick of the needle or of the pin, it can make the eye go blind. And it's the same thing with nature. If you cut down one from all of these trees that are lined up, if you remove just one, you have caused a great havoc. So when we think that we are helping ourselves, okay, it's civilization, we want to improve, and then we cut down the trees, we use it to make chairs, we cut down the trees, we use it to make railway, we cut down the trees, we use it to make all of these things. We think that we are moving towards civilization, but in the long run we are causing irrevocable havoc. And so he says, where we mean to mend her, we end her. After commas cannot get the beauty bin. 10 or 12, only 10 or 12. Strokes of havoc on self. The sweet especial sin. Rural sin, a rural sin. Sweet especial rural sin. He is saying here that after commas, those that had never been in that area before, when they come there, they cannot even see the kind of beauty before. It was because he had been there before, and now that he's there, he can still picture. Recall that this is the present, and he's saying it as though all of the trees are still there because he has been there for so many years, 14 years. And so when he got back there, he could still remember every detail. So it says that after commas, that visitors will not know, cannot guess the beauty. They cannot say, oh, this is where these trees were planted, because there's nothing for them to meet. After commas cannot get the beauty bin, 10 or 12, only 10 or 12. And that's what we keep telling ourselves. Oh, I'm not going to cut everything. I just need 1 or 2. When you cut 1 or 2, another person will come and say, I don't need everything. I just need 3. That one will cut the 3. Like that. That is it. We keep giving excuses. And before you know it, none will be remaining. And so it says 10 or 12, only 10 or 12. Strokes of havoc conserve. And that's it. It lies in the 1, 2, 10, 12 that we cut down every time. For every time we cut down one tree, we are causing irrevocable havoc. The sweet especial sin, rural sin and rural sin, sweet especial rural sin. I'm sure you know rural sin, yeah. Like I said earlier, we all want civilization, and that is why they keep cutting down the trees, to upgrade, so that at least it will move from rural. Nobody wants to live in the village, yeah. Nobody wants to have a rural setting. Everybody wants to be civilized, yeah. And so they use these trees. But in the bid of you wanting civilization, you are wreaking havoc. And Manly, because he is a romantic poet, he will choose the natural environment. Let nature be in its pure form. That is what he is advocating here. He loves it that way. He does not want anything to disrupt that kind of setting. So that is that about the poem. So let's quickly go to the background of the poem. The poet has just arrived at a river which he had always admired some 14 years earlier while he was studying at Oxford. The river was then located in a small hamlet in a town called Gosto near Oxford, and to his surprise, the usual row of aspen trees that lined the river had all been felled. The wood have been used for the construction of railway. He views this as an environmental vandalism and therefore wrote the poem as a way of protest. It's you staying in a particular place for so many years and you being very, very familiar with that environment, and then leaving that place and coming back, hoping that you'll still meet it, the way that it was. And then you come and you see it desolate. Like all of the things that added beauty to it, all of the things that made you fall in love with that area was no longer there again. That was how Hopkins felt when he got back after 14 years and realized that all the trees were no longer standing. None were standing. That's why he said all failed are all, not one remaining. Okay, and that was what prompted him to write this Bunsey Poplars. The poet gives a direct address to the poetic object, the Aspen Trees. He loved these lost trees deeply, so much he calls them my aspens dear. These trees gently restrain the sunlight, seeming to capture it in their branches. All the beauty, peace, and pleasure of this scene comes to a sharp and painful ending in the third line. All failed are all failed. The persona appear to be shocked, trying to come to terms with the fact that all of them are all gone. Stanza 1. The poet gives a direct address to the poetic object, that is the aspen trees. He loves these lost trees deeply, so much that he calls them my aspens there. These trees gently restrain the sunlight, seeming to capture it in their branches. All the beauty, peace, and pleasure of the scene comes to a sharp and painful ending in the third line. All failed are all failed. The persona appear to be shocked, trying to come to terms with the fact that all of them are all gone. Stanza 2. The poet goes on to tell humans who have acted out of ignorance of the mistakes they have made in cutting down trees in general. Oh, if we but knew what we do when we delve or heal. This act is compared to destroying the country in itself, since country is so tender. The poet compares cutting down the trees to pricking the eyeball out from the eye socket. But a prick will make no eye at all. Humans end up destroying what they intend to improve. Even where we mean to mend are, we end her. The effect of such destruction is that those who visit the site of the hewn tree subsequently, that is the aftercomers of visitors, will not be able to appreciate the beauty which the trees had provided in that place when the trees were still there. Aftercomers cannot guess the beauty bin. The havoc which humans have caused by felling the trees in their numbers, 10 or 12, has all altered the scenery of the rural setting. 10 or 12, only 10 or 12 strokes of havoc on self. Now, that is just a summary of the poem, and that's it. It's just as simple as that. Stop cutting down trees. So I believe that when you see your dad or you see anybody cutting down the tree, please tell them that let that tree be. Just imagine how we all will be if there are no trees anymore. Just imagine how the world is going to be if there are no trees anymore. You know that we get our oxygen from these plants. We get them from these trees. And so imagine that we have a world devoid of trees. Apart from that, trees help a lot. So let's go to the themes. Humanity's abuse of nature. Hopkins, upon seeing the trees felled, is appalled to see the injustice of humans on nature. It reflects that nature is as fragile as well as it is lovely. It takes human thoughtlessness to unself or to destroy the identity of a whole landscape. Nature, according to this poem, offers people boundless beauty and comfort, a gift that humanity often thoughtlessly abuses. Hopkins sounds from the line of the poem as though he was grieving a person. Not only himself has been injured by this act, but also the sweet, especially rural scene. Humans are revealed as being greedy, selfish, and short-sighted towards nature. A mere 10 or 12 strokes of the axe to create utter havoc on a once beautiful and comforting place. You might feel that there's really no big deal in cutting down the trees. But like I said earlier, romantic poets, that is where they get their inspiration from. You know that there are some people, yeah, that they cannot even get their inspiration around people. They have to go to nature, probably a flowing river, under the tree, on the mountain. They have to. That is where they can get their inspiration from. And so nature poets, romantic poets, they tend to hold nature in high esteem, and they would not want anything to happen to nature. And it's just telling us nature is good, nature is profitable, nature is life. Just in case we don't know, you might not need this now, but nature is actually life. When people start to exploit nature for material wealth, they leave irreversible ruin in their wake. Let us build this, you cut down the trees. Let us build cupboard, you cut down the trees. Let us build chair, you cut down the trees. Because you want to upgrade. Hopkins calls that selfishness and greediness on the part of humans. It's not stopping you from upgrading. It's not stopping you from attaining civilization. But please do not touch nature. And that is what he's begging, he's pleading. Do not touch it. Don't mess with nature. Don't use nature as a means of you being wealthy. It's uncalled for. The benefits of trees to human environment. Shelter. Quelled or quenching leaves the leaping sun. Just imagine you walking in, especially in this hot sun nowadays, and then you see a tree, you know, where underneath is very, very cool. You want to sit down there and rest. Now that is a source of shelter, not only to humans, but also to animals like birds. They take their shelters on trees. That dandled are sandaled. Shadows that swam or sank. Reduction of wind erosion on meadow and river and wind-wandering, weed-winding bank. You know that the roots of the trees actually stop erosion. For those of you that do agric, you will know the impact or the effect of trees on erosion. Another benefit is artistic beauty to the rural environment. You might feel that it's just there, the leaves are just there. During dry season, it's just going to shed all its leaves, everywhere is going to be ugly. No, that is what makes the rural scene, that is what makes it beautiful. It is not the high towers, it is not the skyscrapers. Those, according to romantic poets, those are not the things that they refer to as beautiful. They refer to nature as beautiful. Okay, so we consider some poetic devices, and our first is imagery. There are two distinct imagery here. We have the visual and we have the tactile. Please note that in my previous lesson, I mentioned the 5 types of imagery. That we have the visual, that the imagery that appeals to sense of sight. We have the auditory, the imagery that appeals to the sense of sound. We have the gustatory, the imagery that appeals to the sense of taste. We have the tactile, the imagery that appeals to the sense of touch. And we have the olfactory, the imagery that appeals to the sense of smell. Okay, so please note all of this imagery. So in all of this imagery, there are 2 distinct, and it is visual. Now, this poet Hopkins had made use of powerful words that will make you to see the same thing that he is seeing, even though you are not in that scene. With the use of all of these words, you can actually paint a picture of what he is talking about here. And we have leaping sun, we have quelled, quench, felled, delve, heal. We have that dandu, the sandu. We have shadows that swam or sank. We have wind wandering, weed winding bank. We have growing green. We have singing ball. We have sweet special rural sing. All of these words, when you hear them, it brings a picture to your mind, and it seems as though you are also in that same place as GERARD MANLY HOPKINS, feeling the same way, or seeing the same way, or seeing the same thing he is seeing. The next imagery is tactile. A prick will make no eye at all. A prick will make no eye at all. Remember that tactile imagery has to do with the sense of touch. So imagine a prick will make no eye at all. Imagine them bringing a pin closer to your eyeball. You will want to shrink away, and that's it. So this is the kind of feelings that these words evoke in the mind of the reader. We go to symbolism. Airy cages. This symbolizes the comfort and shelter provided by the trees. Growing green symbolizes the trees. After comma symbolizes visitors. 10 or 12 symbolizes the number of trees cut, which creates havoc in the environment. Then we go to the tone and the mood. The poet's mood is that of sadness, while his tone is that of shock, worry, regret, and warning. And with that, we have come to the end of this poem. It's as simple as it is. A poet has been in a particular place before, he comes back, and all of the things that makes up that particular place had all been cut off, especially the trees. And he is sad that civilization had done this to nature, and that and at the end, the second stanza, it gives a warning that if things should continue this way, we would eventually wreak havoc on the planet if we do not leave nature alone. If we are always relying on nature as our source of wealth, or we are relying on nature as a means of civilization. That tree that is growing at your backyard, leave it alone. And you can even plant more trees. By doing that, you are helping nature. I hope that you've been able to learn or understand this poem better. Till I come your way again next lesson. See ya.